I think it's safe to say that we all love RuneScape and that we want the best for this game and that we want it to live as long as humanly possible for us to enjoy the fruits of, well, our labor in a way, because we put so much time into this game. However, there is a consensus within the community that is very worrisome regarding XP rates and the way the direction the game is going. Let's talk about it. Yo, what's going on guys? My name's ChevalricRS and today we're going to be talking about XP rates within RuneScape and certain people's opinion on it and even certain developers' opinion on it, and if it's actually a good or a bad thing that they pretty much increase with every single year and that 99s get easier to get pretty much by the year, even sometimes by the month depending on the updates, and kind of how that ties into those new skilling reworks, but just in general, the state of the game. However, I don't want to be talking about double XP in this video. I made an entire video on it, why I think that double XP is actually not bad for the game. It does tie into it, this subject, and I will bring it up, but if you want a complete detailed opinion and explanation regarding it, go check out that video. But also, no MTX talk. Look, I know people are concerned about MTX and I know people worry about it, but that's not what we're going to be talking about. Look, yes, you can use bonus stars. Yes, you can use XP lamps, but it's still a choice from people to do on certain skills. And, you know, if you want to do it, you do it, but you're still not forced to it. That's all I want to say about it. But if you're going to enjoy this video, definitely go give it a like. Join in with the discussion in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you're new. We're still trying to get as close to 2,000 subscribers as humanly possible by the end of the year. I know I won't reach it, but I want to see how far we can get. And without further ado, let's actually just get into this video. So the current state of the game is that the experience rates pretty much increase pretty much by the year, as I said in the intro. And that is actually not a bad thing, at least not in my opinion. I think it's actually really good that the experience rate increase and that, you know, it is a part of RuneScape 3. And I know that people, you know, feel a certain type of way about it, which we'll obviously get into, but this idea kind of stems from my recent video that I made on the new skilling reworks and why I think certain other skills need reworks like fishing and woodcutting. And I saw quite a few opinions from people saying, hey dude, these skills have always been slow and reworking them would kind of defeat the purpose and the essence of the skill, because that's kind of what I talked about. A certain skill in essence, for example Bibles, will never really be useful skills. And people saw that essence from, for example, woodcutting and fishing, as in they've always been slow skills, so they should remain slow skills. And that mindset is actually very dangerous, at least in my opinion. And certain devs do have that as well, especially with early game, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. But in general, why I think that's a dangerous thing is because, look, RuneScape 3 is not the grindy game that old school RuneScape is. It is not like it hasn't been for years now. And as I said at the intro, you could say that has something to do with the MTX, but just even in general, if you play an Ironman, which obviously is more challenging than playing a main, but even if you're playing a main with minimal MTX, it is not really that difficult to get 99s with, look at ED3. It has an experience rate from up to 2 million experience an hour. And on double experience, you can get 3-4 million experience an hour if you really try hard and you have a good setup, which is insane. You can get easy combat 99s. Is that a bad thing? Well, certain people see that as a bad thing. But also, it makes the game more accessible to other people. And that kind of ties into like the early game that I said earlier, is RuneScape is a very inaccessible game when it comes to early game. And the developers really don't want to change that because RuneScape is a sandbox. And that is very dangerous to me as well, because I feel like RuneScape should be an accessible game. And that's kind of controversial with how they stand on experience rates, saying that, yeah, they get quicker. And yeah, it will be easier to get to the late levels because we want you to be there. Well, you kind of need to start somewhere, in my opinion. And I think that is the biggest issue for RuneScape in general. Literally, if I was to work at Jagex and I could push any update, it's like a full rework on the early game. If you haven't watched Jimmy's recent video, which kind of inspired this video on him playing RuneScape 3's Fresh Start Worlds, he was saying as well, it's a really enjoyable game. And because I know about RuneScape and RuneScape 3 in a way, I can get into it. But the early game is really, really poor. But it's really enjoyable to get places really quickly because the experience rates. And obviously the experience rates in Fresh Start Worlds are slightly boosted compared to the main game, but even so, it's not that much higher than our double experience weekends. And why I'm telling you all this is because I think it's actually important, something he said in his video. And pretty much what he was saying is that, you know, I can enjoy these bosses. I can enjoy these quests and, you know, I don't have to grind too long. And, you know, in a way, it does make it more accessible. Look, I think we all have a kind of idea from or about RuneScape players that they're all neckbeards that play 7-8 hours a day. But, you know, I get a lot of comments and just a lot of messages from people that maybe play an hour a day. And imagine you right now, you're probably watching this and you're probably more of a hardcore player. If you only could play 1 hour a day, think about the progress you could get done, especially if you do some dailies like shop runs. I mean, especially if you want to make some money early on, you need to do some shop runs. Think about what you can do in 1 hour or maybe 2 hours of gameplay. Sure, you could say then RuneScape isn't the game for you, and that's a fair assessment. But then again, I also feel like if you really want to play the grindy version of RuneScape, go play old school RuneScape. But that's obviously my personal opinion. And I also do see people thinking, well, I want to play RuneScape 3 because of the combat system, so I don't want to play old school RuneScape. What I'm trying to say with this is, it's like making it quicker. And obviously there's a difference between, I would say, Elite Dungeons 3, which is the most extreme example of experience rates, because you can pretty much get 1 million experience an hour at level 40, 50, which I don't think is good. But even something like Hunter, for example. Hunter is a skill that goes quite quick, and Thieving is even a better example of it. As soon as you unlock save cracking at level 63, getting to 99 won't take you that long. I think it will take you like 10 or 15 hours or something. Especially on double experience, it will definitely not take you longer than that. And is that necessarily a bad thing or a good thing? Because on one hand, you could say, okay, it's a bad thing because it devalues all the achievements that I've done, but then again, it also makes the game more accessible. And aren't those same players that, you know, probably are calling about devaluation of skills or achievements or whatever, the same ones that are saying, yeah, but the game gets good at endgame? Well, it does. The endgame of RuneScape 3 is incredible. Do I think a game should be good only at the endgame, mid-endgame? No, I don't think so. I think it should be good all the way through, and it should be like a gradual process of you, you know, enjoying the game more and more and more. Like, you get into it, you think, oh my god, that's a sick game. And then the further you get into it, you kind of think, oh bro, it even gets sicker, it gets cooler. That's what you want for your game. But at the same time, if the late game, which in RuneScape I think is the case, is the interesting part, whether it's the quest, whether that's the PVM content that you can do, or even certain skilling content like Big Game Hunter, which I know is more like mid-game content, but you get what I mean. Like, it's not early game content. Those are all very interesting pieces of content, and you want people to play that. And how do you get people to play that? Is by increasing the experience rates and making it more enjoyable for people to play. Look, gaming has changed over the years. People don't want to grind that much anymore. And yet again, I understand that you could say RuneScape might not be the game for you. But yet again, there are also so many skills that are already very quick. As mentioned, Thieving, Hunter, Combat, and obviously certain Bibles are really, really fast as well. And on one hand, why not make the other ones just as quick? Obviously, you don't have to go to extremes like Elite Dungeons 3. I fully understand that. But 400k experience an hour at around level 80 to, you know, train your skills and make it an active method for all I care. Obviously, I understand that if you're just sitting there AFK, that might not be the one, and that might be stupid. But for example, a fishing trading method that you have within the deep sea fishing hub, which I don't think gives that much experience, but I might be mistaken because I got some contradicting comments and the wiki says contradicting things as well. But an active trading fishing method that gives more experience than, you know, an AFK method, that makes sense. Same with woodcutting. For example, if you have regular trees that you obviously cut down in one go, obviously they shouldn't be the best method, but have another type of tree that you can only get one log from, but you constantly have to alternate between, thus having to train it actively, but also gives you 400 or 350k experience an hour. That's way more feasible and way more realistic. And why I think that's so important is because then you push people to the more interesting things, like the quests, like the PVM content, and the grindy part isn't really there anymore. And I still think it should be somewhat of a grind. I don't think it should be given a 99, but I feel like 20 hours of gameplay, 30 hours of gameplay maybe, probably 30 is probably better. 4.99 in certain skills is good in my opinion, because if you think about it, we get more skills every 3 years. Currently, we have, I believe, 26 skills. Correct me if I'm wrong, but look at all the skills. If you have to train them all to 99, it will take a long time. And obviously for PvM and questing, you don't need them at 99, but people want to. People want to complete it. That's a goal, and you know, that's a nice goal to go for. But also, I feel like the game should really help it. And the whole mentality of I had to suffer, you had to suffer is not good. That will not help you get new players in. And like I said earlier, it also kind of goes against like how modern gaming works. People don't want to grind anymore, and people don't want to sit there for hours and hours and hours. They want to do the good things. And whether you like it or not, if we want this game to live in a couple years time, we need those new players. We need the casuals that currently might quit because they see a 200-hour grind for a certain skill. That's not good. You want those people. And I know it sucked for us hardcore players, but we kind of have to deal with it. Gaming is changing and it's evolving constantly. And, you know, RuneScape needs to kind of start adapting to it. And I know they are. And I think that is a really good thing. And that's why the early game thing is very concerning to me as well. That they should really start doing something about that as well. Because if you can get people into the game, I think they will stick around to the game, especially if for certain skills you fix the experience rates. For example, if you have to get woodcutting up for a very sick quest like River of Blood, it takes a very long time because the early game methods are very slow. If you make that a bit more of a smooth progress, I think the experience curve until like level 60 of archaeology, for example, which is an issue and they're aware of it and trying to fix it. But the experience curve of archaeology, I feel like it's a good example. It gets quicker and quicker the higher you get, as it should be. But that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this subject at hand. And if you agree with me or if you disagree with me. And your opinion is good, but this is just me. And I'm thinking from the whole perspective of longevity for RuneScape. Because I want this game to be around in 10, 15, 20 years. I want to eventually have kids and introduce them to RuneScape. And I'm not going to have kids anytime soon, RuneScape. So please, you got to stick around for a little bit. But if you did enjoy this video, definitely go give it a like. As I said, join in with discussion down below. Subscribe if you're new, the whole 2K thing, etc, etc. My name is Chevalric, and see you guys in my next video.